Next thing is Kansas City is going to have to protect the ball and they're going to have to protect the pocket. Okay, and in terms of giveaway takeaway, Philly's on an incredible run. So they're plus 10 in giveaway takeaway throughout the playoffs. And when you look at Kansas City, nobody has really done it better than Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City.
This is my graphic.
Because this is such a compelling graphic. When you're 34-1, I mean, teams are in the 90 percentile, typically with winning the giveaway takeaway ratio by +2 or 3. Kansas City is incredible, across the board. But now you look at it where they lose the turnover ratio. Okay, so to me, that's a very important factor in this. And looking at the Buffalo game, they had the one turnover, right? And so really it's a 10-point swing. They were going in to score. They give up the field goal. Buffalo comes back and scores a touchdown. So it was a 10-point swing in that game, and that's how impactful those numbers are. So if they can find, the first thing is to protect the ball against this really opportunistic Philly defense. And then when I talk about protecting the pocket, Philly's the same way. They've got 10 sacks this postseason. And Kansas City's been the other way. They've given up 5 sacks. Mahomes has been sacked at the highest rate of his career. And that's where the opportunity is for Philly, and that's what Kansas City's got to protect against. They've got those struggles with the offensive tackles. And the ways that you can protect the pocket, there's multiple ways. You can run the ball a little bit more. You can work in screens. And then Mahomes has really been protecting the pocket himself by using as many scrambles as he's using along the way.
Now I'm starting to feel good about the Eagles. I was going to rename the segment. All right.
Is it working the other way?
Now I'm like, oh, the Eagles. Okay, last key code.
Okay, well, let's talk about this. This is something that I brought up really the first week as soon as, after the conference championship games with the Eagles and with all their turnovers, in terms of forcing the turnovers, that the Eagles have absolutely benefited from those turnovers. Now, I'm not going to say, because, we know that the other take is kind of like, oh, well, if you remove the turnovers from the Commanders, then it's a closer game. And I don't 100% agree with that take. But I do, when I really try to drill down on a team and really try to figure out and try to get to the truth of it, I do try to remove some of this extra stuff. Some of the stuff that you can't necessarily always rely on to lead to either a victory or a loss, depending on which side of the coin you're looking at. And I do try to say, okay, if we take away a couple of these plays, what does it look like? And it is interesting because on one side, it's very encouraging that the Eagles are forcing all of these turnovers. And make no mistake about it, like, this is caused by the Philadelphia Eagles. These aren't like fluke plays. I think a couple of the turnovers you could probably point to it being kind of like a little fluky, a little fortunate. But for the most part, a lot of them are very intentional by the Philadelphia Eagles. But I still don't think that you can bank on forcing 3 turnovers on the Kansas City Chiefs. I just don't see that happening personally. And so it's just like it is. I agree that's obviously another huge key for the Kansas City Chiefs to obviously take care of the ball, no turnovers. And then I'd kind of keep going with it in terms of like enforcing turnovers on the Philadelphia Eagles. Making Jalen Hurts uncomfortable because they're, against, I'm not sure if it was against the Commanders, definitely one time against the Rams, that there was definitely a ball that could have been intercepted. Like Jalen definitely had a couple turnover worthy plays, a couple fumbles and recoveries and stuff like that. That goes a long way for the Kansas City Chiefs. Same thing with the Eagles, where it's like, they forced a bunch of fumbles against like the Commanders, against the Rams, against every team they play in the playoffs. But once the ball is on the ground, like where is it going to bounce? Is it going to go out of bounds? Is it going to bounce right up to the offensive player, or is it going to bounce in the arms of one of the Philadelphia Eagles? Will they be able to scoop it and then now run for 20 yards, or will they be able to get it but then only fall on the ground? It all really depends. There's still other factors, even with the Eagles causing those fumbles. There's still a lot of luck and just good fortune in terms of, can an Eagles player get the ball now? Can they get the ball and run? When they get the ball, are they now in good field position? All of those various things. And I think when we talk about turnovers, like that aspect of it often gets lost. Not all interceptions are created equally. If you get an interception and you run it now to like the 20-yard line, to the other team's 20-yard line, that's a huge difference than getting an interception and now being at your own 30. Like that's a night and day difference. Sometimes you intercept the ball and you immediately go down. Sometimes you intercept the ball and you rip off now 40, 50 yards. And that changes everything. That changes absolutely everything. So not all turnovers are this one-to-one kind of equality here. So I think even with the Philadelphia Eagles, forcing turnovers, but then truly benefiting them. I think anytime you're going to remove points or remove possession away from the Kansas City Chiefs, that's obviously going to benefit you. But it is it's tough. Like, obviously, again, you're going to be excited and it's a good thing that the Eagles are forcing those turnovers, but it is slightly unsettling because you just don't want to be reliant on the turnovers, because then if you don't turn the ball over, then you're in trouble. Then if you don't force turnovers, then you could be in trouble. You need to be able to win beyond that. You need to be able to beat a team without any turnovers, which, again, I'm not saying that the Eagles can't, but it has been undeniably a major factor for the Philadelphia Eagles in these last 3 games. And when you do see a graph like that, it is that's enough data. That is, I always talk about some of these things are not good enough, good enough data points, where it's too short, small of a sample size, or too irrelevant. Now, I think it would be better to look at it from a 2024 season rather than just over the last 3 years, because, again, in 2022, the Kansas City Chiefs offense was significantly better. In 2023, I think that the Kansas City Chiefs defense was better. And now in 2024, you kind of have like a slightly better offense, slightly worse defense. Like I don't know how much it matters in 22. I really don't. So that's where I would say that graph is slightly, I don't want to say misleading, because it's not misleading at all. It's more just like, I don't know how much wisdom, how much knowledge you can take from that. Again, it clearly does show the level of consistency for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, that's undeniable, especially when you have a one-tied turnover battle 34-1, and then lost turnover battle 14-9. Like that is a big enough of a swing. But again, it's tough. Those are some of those stats that you really have to dig into, that you have to really look into, because you'll also be feasting off of, in a bunch of those games, you're going to be feasting off of the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Raiders. Like, that's going to play a factor, as well as, like I said, it's just, people keep trying to compare this to 22 for both the Eagles and the Chiefs, and I keep saying, like, it's really not that relevant, because other people are like, oh, well, the Eagles played great against the Chiefs in 22, and I'm kind of like, that doesn't really matter. Or they say, well, Jalen Hurts beat the Eagles, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles beat the Chiefs in 23, and I'm like, well, that doesn't matter. It's different coaches, different players. It just everything is different for both these teams. Yeah, the jerseys are the same, and some of the players are the same, but enough of the players and enough of the coaches are different for it just to make it a fundamentally different game. Just the way I see it. So again, even a chart like this, although I think it obviously bodes extremely well, and that can't be understated for the Kansas City Chiefs. It still is one of those things where it's just like, I would love to just kind of dig into those numbers more deeply before you just kind of give this blanket statement. But it goes without saying that I think for a major key for the Philadelphia Eagles would be to, like, legitimately force turnovers, obviously. And not only force turnovers, but then capitalize on them. It's not enough. Patrick Mahomes threw an interception last year against the against the 49ers, and I don't think it ended up leading to any points. That's a tough one. It's not enough. If Patrick Mahomes throws 3 interceptions in back-to-back drives, but the Philadelphia Eagles don't put up any points, it hurts them. Obviously, you're stopping them from scoring points, but it's just like, if you get any type of gift, and that is what it is. If the Chiefs turn the ball over, Patrick Mahomes throws an interception, a fumble, etc., that is a gift, and it has to be maximized. It has to be maximized. You force a fumble and recover it on Kansas City Chiefs' own 40, You know, it's like a field goal is not enough. It's got to be a touchdown. Got to be a touchdown. Like I think there's enough of those plays, enough of those moments that it's a gotta have it moment. Because I do think that the Philadelphia Eagles would be at the disadvantage to win a close game. So I think any type of benefit that the Eagles would get has to be maximized. Has to be maximized. But like I said, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles going to this game, your success can't be built upon we got to force turnovers. We got to force turnovers. Now you have to limit your turnovers because that's more in your control. But this idea that you're going to force as many turnovers that you have, you know, because right now they're averaging technically a little, you know, 3.3 turnovers a game in the last 3 games. Like to think you're going to continue with that trajectory against the Kansas City Chiefs, I find that hard to imagine because I think the Chiefs are significantly better than the Commanders, the Packers, and the Rams. So, you know, and they're just way more disciplined. So, yeah, I am curious to see how turnovers affects this game, if at all. On one side of the court, I'm kind of like, hey, you know, turnovers in the Super Bowls are always fun. It's intense swings. It's dramatic. It's anxiety-inducing, depending on you know who does it at what time. But on the other side of the court, I'm kind of just like, I just want to see a clean game. I don't want to see any of these cheap, turnover, like whatever it is. Like I don't know. Doesn't matter what I want because whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But the turnover battle will be an interesting talking point for sure going into this game. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Kansas City Chiefs needing to take care of the ball and essentially win or tie this turnover battle in order to beat the Philadelphia Eagles? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.